Hello, it's day 57 of Drop'em 78, and this is the Fool from Dame Fortune's Wheel Tarot. Throughout the pips and courts, Hewson really relied on Atea's meanings, but for the triumphs, Atea kind of did his own thing, so Hewson rarely refers to him, but does refer to the author of the very first published triumph interpretations, who was Comte de Millet. And he discusses the history of the triumphal images at the time that they were incorporated into playing cards. The Fool in Tarot being the exception, with no number and no rank, and a card that could be played in place of a triumph that you would prefer to save, with the ability to travel throughout the other cards because of the lack of rank. And as such, the Fool is an archetype of somebody living outside the social norms on the outskirts of society and possibly homeless. We talked before about the children of the planets, and the Fool often appears in one of those depictions as a child of the moon, or somebody who's being ruled by the moon. In other words, someone experiencing lunacy, which is a sentiment that we see in the Type 2 TDM labeled La Mat, which comes from the Italian motto, or madman. And my detail is the way that not only is the moon depicted, but his face reflects the shape of the moon, which has some interesting symbolism to it. And he appears here with the garb of an entertainer, with his ass's ears hood and his bells. Hewson doesn't describe much about his role as a traveler, or possibly even a pilgrim, somebody on a pilgrimage, who would have possibly been someone to be made fun of in the time because of the ramping up of the Reformation movement and the criticism of the church in power at the time, the Catholic Church. And here he has his long spoon that he would have used if he came upon a camp to help himself to some stew, as well as his traveling pack and walking stick. And that is a subject of another video, which I do plan to make. But the old Italian meaning that we have record of from 1750 was madness, and de Millet was, from 1781, was also madness, and he has no rank. Hewson's suggested meanings for the upright card are mania, intoxication, infantilism, innocence, unpredictability, and anarchy. And the reversed card is unintelligence, nullity, which means without worth, apathy, sloth, dementia, or mental illness. So you can see that Hewson is really focusing on the pre-esoteric historic symbolism of the card. And he said that he tried to focus on meanings that were ones that he has found most helpful over the decades of being a card reader. Thanks for tuning in, and I will talk to you again tomorrow.